coming today,
Thank you for having me.
and thank you for sharing your journey with us. I think it'll be very helpful to not just speech pathologists, but kids and other adults who stutter. So I think it's a important and a great story to share. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
And you can start by, saying when you started speech and a little bit about yourself. And
Okay, I'll just start from the beginning.
okay.
I'm David. I'm 25. I've been in and out of speech therapy for a total of 15 years. I started when I was 4. I was in pre-K, and at my school, there wasn't actually a speech therapist, so I was bussed over 3 times a week to a different school for speech therapy, and I did that throughout elementary school. When I was over in speech therapy, I was usually with like a group of kids. Usually the kids would change over the years, and I was kind of just a constant. And I was working on things. I'm not exactly sure what I was working on because I was so young, but I just remember like playing games and talking and trying to get stories out of me and stuff, which I didn't mind at all. I started there because I had problems with articulations, and then over time it grew into a stutter. And I didn't really think about it too much, or it didn't really worry me too much at all. I wasn't really picked on or anything. I don't have any horrible stories like that. All the kids that I went to school with knew that I was going to speech, because I was leaving the school all those years during the day, so they knew it was just something I was working on. And
Did you know? I know you didn't. Did you know that you were saying sounds differently, and that's why you were going to speech? Were you aware of it?
not really.
No. Okay.
When it started to turn into a stutter, I was more aware of it,
Okay.
and I think that's when I started to say like, oh, okay, this is why I go to speech, or I talk differently than others. But I wasn't too focused on it. I remember when I was like in 3rd grade, a teacher told me like, David, when you talk, you just gotta slow down a little bit and relax. You're too excited. So I was okay. I guess I'm too excited because I didn't really know too much about it anyway. But it wasn't like a huge thing. It was just something I was working on over the years, and it didn't get like difficult until I was like in junior high.
Okay. And so you continued speech in junior high?
No. When I got to junior high, obviously it was a whole different school, and they didn't have a speech therapist there either, and I wasn't able to be bussed over to the other school, so my speech therapy stopped. And at this place, it was a whole different building, whole different classmates and teachers, and I was just having a really difficult time with my stuttering. I was having a hard time just getting anything out. I was the only person, who I knew who stuttered, so I was definitely trying to hide it, and I was really worried and anxious and stressed out about it, constantly, always thinking about it. Not that being stressed or anxious, causes stuttering, but if you have a stutter, it can exaggerate it a little bit more. And it was definitely always a stressful thing for me, and I could tell a bunch of stories from back then, just of difficult times, but it was just times when I had a very hard time speaking.
If you can pick one story that stands out, or not even story, and something that was really hard for you to do, whether it was socializing or if it was, presentations in the classroom, reading out loud, what would you say was the most difficult for you in that period?
Definitely being in a classroom, having to like read. Like I can recall countless times when you're like in a classroom and you have to go around the room and read out loud, and you kind of have to wait your turns, you're like counting the people ahead of you to see, where you're gonna read and thinking about how you're gonna do on certain words and what people's reactions are gonna be and all that, and that was definitely very difficult. But the other side, when I was able to just talk with friends, I did decent just because I've had a stutter for so long now that I was able to learn different tricks to speak better, just like changing my words when I'm talking with people or choosing when I want to talk and when, not to talk. So definitely did alright that way.
With the classroom, when would it have helped if the teacher had randomly called on people or let you know ahead of time, this is the passage and, don't worry about it, read it over, and then, what would have helped you, I guess? What would you tell the teachers now that might have helped you?
That's difficult to say. Anyway, it would have been completely stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just having the communication would help in any way, just coming up and, talking to the student
Mm-hmm.
about it maybe,
Yeah.
just addressing it in any way.
Acknowledging it and then
Yeah.
saying, okay, we'll give you extra time, whatever you need.
Yeah, or, there's no pressure,
Right,
or you can choose to want to read or not to read, but,
okay.
well, that's difficult because either way you'd be kind of thinking about it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, okay. All right, so junior high was really tough for you and you didn't get any therapy then?
no.
No, and then you went on to, did you get therapy in high school?
Yeah, when I was like in 10th grade or so, my family enrolled me back in speech therapy at the Gebby Speech Clinic at Syracuse University. And there, now it was like a whole different kind of speech. My stutter was like completely analyzed, like I was videotaped, recorded, timed, and I learned all about what I was doing, what I could be doing. Their whole thing there was, you've learned all this about speech, but you really have to know it, so when we're not there in the future, you can take it and use it yourself and be your own speech therapist. So I learned so many things. I try to think of some of the techniques that I learned, which was the most important piece of it, but some were like easy onset, light contact, pseudo stuttering, diaphragmatic breathing, just using eye contact, prolongations, and breathing techniques. And those all really help. And the other side to it was your family was involved. Not that I ever talk about my stutter, but the family was there to watch the speech therapy through a two-way mirror. They could just gain an understanding of you through that, and that definitely helped. And a big part of it for me was just confidence. Confidence through using the techniques. And a good strategy that helped me a lot was that anytime I did stutter in any kind of situation, whoever I was with or where I was, I would say the word over until I don't have any disruptions, and that helped me to say like, okay, I don't stutter on this word, or I don't have to stutter on this word, I can say it perfectly fine. So it just gives me that confidence that in the future I know I can, because if you're a person who stutters, when you're alone, you don't have any problems at all. You can be the best speaker ever. So it's not something that physically you can't do, it's just an ability you really got to hone in on, and that really allowed me to do that.
Because there's a lot of other factors that go into it as far as the pressures in the environment that kind of affects the way you say it, or
Yeah.
The difficulty in that situation. Going back to, you said you mentioned that you did not talk about your stuttering and this was the first time that the family was actually involved in therapy, even if it's just observing and looking in on, you know, what you're doing and stuff. I'm assuming that you have your parents, or you did not talk about this to anyone in your family, like it was not something that was brought up to you or acknowledged, or is that correct?
I think, I'm sure my family tried to bring it up, but I didn't really
You were not?
want to talk about it.
Okay.
I think even today I don't really discuss it, so
So it was you more than your
Yeah.
family trying to, you just didn't
Yeah.
want to, okay,
yeah.
okay. Did you have another, like a buddy or friend or somebody that you could, confide in or show your frustration, share this?
I think there would have been people out there I could have, but I just definitely chose not to. I think some of that just has to do with, it's hard to understand
Mm-hmm.
what having a stutter is like. It
Okay.
kind of can't just be explained.
Yes.
It has to be like experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So, just talking about it with somebody who doesn't really understand it wouldn't, at the time I just thought wouldn't really.
Okay,
Benefit.
no, yeah. No, I just wanted to know if there was, or if you felt the need, or if you felt like, oh geez, if there was a support group, or if I knew someone else, or, you
Mhm.
know, can I, and then that would have helped a little bit, so you can at least share, you know, it's out there instead of keeping it in you.
Yeah.
But certainly, you know, whatever works for you, I was just curious to see
Yeah.
how you handled it.
Looking back now, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, everybody who stutters is different, so it's kind of how they would want to approach things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was in high school.
Hmm.
So it gave you a lot more confidence because you had the techniques down, and so you were getting ready to go to college at that point.
Hmm.
And how did that go? That's stressful.
Yeah, it was, but I was in good control of my speech. I was doing really well. Even when I was writing my college essays to schools, trying to get in, they were all about how I overcame a stutter,
Mm-hmm.
because it was kind of something that I felt like that I dealt with and that I was doing really well now, and I was speaking really well. And I went into college and continued doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I loved speaking all of a sudden, but it was just less stressful. I was able to get my words out easier. I was in good control. If I did come across any kind of disruption, I knew like, well, I have all these techniques I can use. There's all these things I can do, all these things I've learned that I can just put in place. So I did well. Even when I was in college, when I was doing presentations, I advertised before I even knew what it was. I would say, as I was starting, I would say, I'm a person who stutters, so if I do have any kind of slight disruption, just stay with me,
Mm-hmm.
and all that.
Which is great. So it's more than just the techniques that you learned there. You had confidence, you had more control over it. So that confidence from not talking or telling anybody to actually letting people know that, you know, I have, I have a stutter, and that itself is a big step in there that you must have felt good just getting to that point.
Yeah, and I think that confidence comes from just being in the speech classes and then using your techniques,
Mm-hmm.
because as you use your techniques, like it kind of builds up in you that, you know, you start getting used to using them,
Mm-hmm.
and you start speaking better, and you start to put yourself out into different situations that in the past you would probably stay away from,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of see the positive effects it has, and it just starts to,
Yeah.
well, at least for me, it starts to just snowball
Mm.
after that into positive results. So
That's
that was going good.
great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So that's undergrad.
Yeah.
So all 4 years were pretty okay. You had a good handle on things.
Yeah.
And So then you went on to do your master's. Did you take a break between your undergrad and master's?
No, I just
No.
went straight
Okay.
to my master's. And so yeah, I went to grad school, and I actually moved down to Cortland. I lived by myself, and when I got there, I didn't really know anybody, so it was kind of difficult speaking wise because I wasn't really talking a lot,
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't really using my techniques, and so I wasn't really doing too well, and just being in grad school obviously is a stressful environment, but at the same time I was kind of thinking that I'm at this age and I'm a grad student, I shouldn't really be worrying about my stutter. That's something that you would hope to completely overcome as a child, but it started coming up again. And there's this myth of being a person who stutters that you're not that smart, and obviously that's not true, but there's at least that myth out there. Then there's that other side of you're a grad student, you're pretty smart. So I was trying to almost hide the fact that I stuttered now. So that kind of made it more difficult, and I was having a hard time speaking again. I kind of lost track of my techniques, and in the program I was in, we were doing presentations constantly, so there was just constant presentations, and I kind of lost that control that I had.
So it snowballed into the other side, like it went downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you enroll in speech therapy at that point in grad school?
Yeah, after a little while, I contacted the school and looked into getting a speech therapist, and the school provided me with one, and I started working with her. And now the speech was kind of different because I had already learned all the techniques, but it was kind of just honing back in on them and practicing them again. And the other side of it was just the fact that, like, why are you hiding the fact that you stutter? Like, I remember being asked who knows that you're in speech therapy, and I said nobody knows. And it was kind of a thing where she said, well, you need to be more open about it, be more okay with it, and kind of talking about that side of having a stutter. So we kind of dealing with that. And then this was actually towards undergrad school, so I was kind of moving home soon and applying for jobs and doing interviews and stuff. And that's a difficult time for a person who stutters, or, well, basically anybody. But if you're a person who stutters, you know that having a stutter is a hidden handicap. Like, you can't see it coming. So that's very evident, like in an interview where they see all these good things about you and expect these things from you, and you go to talk to them and you have a hard time saying your name. You can kind of see it, the lack of education or knowledge of what stuttering is at those times, because people get really confused.
And a little surprise element because that's not what they're expecting. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it takes them a bit, confuses them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of the hidden handicap, because somebody else, maybe if they had a problem, they were in a wheelchair, you would say, oh, okay, this person has this or that, but the person who starts, you really can't see it
Yeah.
coming.
Makes
So yeah, the surprise of it.
Mhm.
So I was just working on different skills and different things to do in that situation.
Mhm.
That helped a lot, and I was doing okay.
So this now that the speech therapist was focusing on your attitude and how you felt about it, and on acceptance, right? She wanted
Mhm.
you to accept yourself as you are.
Yeah.
I guess if you can tell us, as a person who stutters, what What is stuttering? What, to you, what is it, what do you think of it as?
Um, that's difficult. I guess, as I said before, it's just really hard to explain without ever being experienced, but it's kind of just a giant block, um, just in what you want to do and say. It's this thing that just comes up when you're trying to talk, and it kind of prevents you, and you just get stuck. I kind of call it like a hiccup in your speech, like when you're trying to get something out, but you're just getting these, you know, things that occur that are preventing you from saying what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to do all these different things to try to get those words out. That can sometimes actually lead you into stuttering more, but it's something that really just has to be experienced, and it's tough to explain.
Right. So would it be something like, and I'm just going to explain how I understand what you're saying is you're trying to say something or, you know, express your ideas, and as you're saying it, do you know that, oh, the word battle is coming up and what I'm gonna say and I'm gonna stutter on it, or is it just that it surprises you every time you go to say something and you just get stuck?
Well, for me, I think everyone's different, but
Yeah.
for me, I think it started off as like you just go to say it, like when I was younger, and it would come up to, oh, I can't say that, you know, but then as you get older, you start to recognize it and the patterns and the thoughts. So then you start in your head saying, like, oh, here comes this kind of word that starts with this kind of letter. So you do know that it's coming up, so you try to prevent that stutter, and you do that by, you know, at the time changing that word, or then trying to apply that technique. But that's kind of one of the reasons I got stuck too when I was like in grad school, was just, you know, you've learned all these techniques and all these things, and every time you do go to talk, you really have to apply them. And so just attempting to talk and thinking, okay, I'm going to say this sentence, on the first word, I'm going to use the prolongation. The second word, I'm going to, you know, do a light contact, and then I'm going to try to take a breath, go back into the third word, you know, and pseudo stutter on the M, and all while trying to think what you want to say. So it definitely becomes a little overwhelming and can be exhausting at times.
Yeah, you have to be a superhuman to do something like it is, and you can so see that. I can, you know, it would be hard. It's hard for me to talk, like slower my rate of speech and talk. You know, I can't think and talk slowly.
Yeah.
But it seems like, I mean, you said it very well. You articulated it, and I think I understand now how it can, you kind of know your patterns and you think, okay, the B is a hard word for me, but then your mind then kind of plays this game saying, oh, here comes the hard word.
Yeah.
So it could have been easy, but then you put yourself in a position where that was very well said. So now you're right now you have a fantastic job. You've switched actually 2 jobs, right? You're on your 2nd job. It's a step up, and you've done very well for yourself right now in your life as you are right now, employed, you know, educated young man. Do you still find yourself in situations that are frustrating for you, or has it gotten better than grad school?
Well, since grad school, like I came back home, obviously, and got a job. But when I wasn't in grad school, my speech therapist said to look into the NSA when I was home, which is the National Stuttering Association, and they have a chapter here in Syracuse, and it's a group of adults who stutter. They can kind of come and meet and just talk about stuttering and anything that you want to discuss about it. And that was actually the first time I met another person who stuttered. I was like 23 or so. And that was kind of like my speech coming full circle. So that kind of helped a lot. And from that, I met you and we decided to continue on with speech therapy. And today, it's just the things that I would struggle with have gotten better, but just different examples. I'm a person who doesn't want to stutter in front of people, so like talking on the phone in front of people. Trying not to be perfect, because that's my thought process, is I always want to be 100% and I always want to be perfect, like I want to be the best speaker. So trying to be okay with the fact that, you know, you don't have to be on top of your game all the time. You know, you can let your guard down, and, you know, take time off from, you know, using your techniques and all that. So that has definitely helped. That was something that I struggle with, but I'm working on. You know, part of that, and part of that is that I do have all these techniques, but trying to hone in on the ones that really work for me and having like the tool bag. So those are the kind of things I've been working on, as well as just being okay as being a person who stutters. And I think I've come a long way. You know, I'm 25, I have a great job, I own my own house, I have a master's degree, I have great family and friends, so things are going well, and I think I have a lot to share about what stuttering is, and definitely a lot of experiences and knowledge about it that I hope to continue to share. And I hope that this video that we're doing helps to further the education on exactly what stuttering is, and I hope that we can do more of these in the future.
I hope so too. I think this is just the beginning of a really wonderful series of education for both, like I said in the beginning, it's for both speech pathologists and kids and people who stutter, to just see that you have succeeded and you've done so well in life, and you kind of, yes, you are a person who stutters, but that's not all of you.
Yeah, that's just a little bit.
There's other things that define who David is, and that's very evident. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll do it again.
All right.